What's up, Pete? Welcome back to another coaching drop in. So, today I want to talk about using strength training to improve an athlete's performance. So, quite often I hear coaches and parents across the board and across many sports say, hey, you want to get better, you need to get in the weight room, you got to get stronger. Yes and no. So, strength in many cases is synonymous with speed. So, there is a component which, in order to get faster, you do have to get stronger. But strength isn't the only component. So when we're talking about speed and improving athletic performance, especially in regards to power output, because when most people say, hey, you need to get stronger, you need to increase your power output. And the mistake people make is that they use power and strength interchangeably, and they're actually not. They're two different things. They're two distinctly different things. Strength is a component of power, but it's not the only component. So strength, which is essentially your ability to move resistance, combined with velocity, which is how fast you can move that resistance. That is what power is. So when a coach says, hey, you need to improve your strength, or when people say you need to get stronger, what they're really trying to say is you need to increase your power, because power is the rate at which, or the speed or the velocity at which you can move a certain amount of resistance. You're really focused on, when you're in the gym training, or when you're training as an athlete, regardless of the sport, you're really focused more on not only how much weight you can lift, but the speed at which you can lift it. The next question you're probably asking is, well, how do we track that? A velocity sensor, VBT, which stands for velocity-based training. This sensor tracks the speed at which you can move a given weight. So what you're trying to do is, you're not just trying to lift heavy, you're trying to find that perfect balance between maximizing your lift while at the same time maximizing the speed at which you lift the weight or you move the resistance. So this is a velocity-based sensor. So I've had this one for years. I've got this one out of the UK. It's called This Beast. I don't even think the company is around anymore. This gives you the data, and you need to be able to leverage the data, but it gives you raw data. It doesn't actually give you usable data. Your knowledge and your experience and your understanding of physiology, movement, and sports performance, coupled with this data, should help improve your strength training overall. How I use this to build my training program for my athletes. The first thing I have to do, I have to take this sensor and actually link it. And I have to go in here and I have to put in kg. Oh, I can put it in pounds. So let's say 145 pounds of weight. All right. So with this data, typically what I would do is I would set a target for the velocity, and you could also track the amount of power. So what does this tell me? So right now, based on my target, I might have a good amount of velocity, but the problem is I'm only moving 145 pounds. I weigh a lot more than 145 pounds. So even if I'm moving that at a high velocity, I'm still not generating nearly enough power because I'm not moving enough resistance. So the next round, what I'll do is I'm going to add more weight to it and then see if my velocity improves. All right, so now I'm at 190. So let me go again. I've added 50 pounds to it. So now I'm at 190 pounds on the deadlift bar. And let's see if that improves my power output and let's see how it affects my target, my velocity. So, all right, so this time my average velocity was 0.3. Let's see my power output. My power output actually dropped to 269. As I've increased the weight, I actually slowed down on my movement. And that's what you're trying to avoid as a sprinter. So far, what that means is that I move faster with lighter weight, but it's not enough weight. So my wattage isn't as high as I need it to be. Now, if I increase the weight, yeah, I've increased the weight, but my power actually drops because my velocity drops. And so the key is you actually want to be able to find the balance between the right weight that will help you move at a good speed. So let's try this again. And let's see what that does to if that improves my velocity and thus improving my power output with that weight. So let's see. So cool. That was actually perfect. So at 175 pounds, I was actually able to generate about 800 watts. And so the goal is to get to like 1,000. But what happens is the goal is to get to 1,000. But for this example, 800 is fine. I could probably decrease the weight a little bit more, put more effort into it, and I'll probably ultimately get to about 1,000 watts output. So in a nutshell, that is velocity-based training. Do you need a tool to do it? No, to be honest with you. Using velocity-based training early in my career is one of the reasons why, especially when training athletes, I primarily moved over to using bands for a large portion of the training, because the fact that bands get more resistant as you move through the movement, that is the exact same thing as velocity-based training. And so if you want your athletes to get more explosive, ideally you could just use bands and then just make sure that they're able to move at a certain speed. It's more of an eye test to know if they're moving at maximum efficiency. But if you ever look at my training videos, and you'll see earlier in the season, my athletes are really weighted down. We'll use sleds, we'll use sandbags, we'll use kettlebells. And a lot of times, because we're just working on just improving strength. Remember I said strength is a component of power. So you do have to improve your strength. But then as we transition through the season, you'll see us starting to use bands more. You'll also see us starting to move more explosive movements. I take the weight off the sleds. I take some of the weight off the sleds and I move them a lot faster. We do wall balls. We do a lot of different things. We do a lot of jump boxes because what we're trying to do is we're trying to increase our velocity. And with the resistance being our body weight. So there is a component, strength. You do have to get stronger, but you have to get stronger within reason. If it was all about strength, then bodybuilders would be the fastest people on earth, and they're not. But that's pretty much it. The key to optimizing your athletic performance, regardless of the sport, is to be able to balance, especially when you're in the weight room, is balancing your strength and maximizing your strength while at the same time maximizing your velocity. So you don't just want to get stronger, but get it slower. You want to get stronger. You don't want to just move weight, but move it slowly. You want to be able to move weight, but move it at a very high speed, because that's ultimately what you're trying to do, whether you're in track and especially in gymnastics. Whether you're doing track, only two sports I know are track and gymnastics because my daughter does gymnastics. So both of those sports require large amounts of power. And as parents and coaches, you got to keep in mind that power is about strength and the velocity at which you can move resistance. So is going into the weight room just lifting heavy does nothing if you can't do it with speed. But that's it. I got to get back to this workout. Till next time, peace, and I see you at the track. And no, I'm not loaning out my velocity-based sensor, so don't even ask. Peace.